now we have our children's stories. We want to invite all the children to come forward and sit in the front here, and we'll have a story this morning just for you. Good morning, boys and girls. Thank you for your patience this morning. I want to tell you a story about a fish and a key. Would you like to hear that? Oh, I gave away the... Oh, shoot. I gave it away already. That's okay. Here's how it goes. So one time there was this man in a faraway country, and he had many wives. He had 1, 2, 3, 4 wives. And this man was kind of angry. You know why? Because his first wife, his favorite wife, had become a Christian. And she would talk to God, and she would worship God. But he didn't like that because he didn't like God. He had his own idols. And he would say to his wife, "Wife, you should not worship that God. You should worship my idols." And she would say, "No, husband. My God isn't like your idols. My God is alive. He lives in my heart, and he lives up in heaven, and he listens to me when I talk." And he just was so angry and so upset because they weren't connected in unity with each other on that. Well, he would make her life miserable, and sometimes he would do things, and like one time, her son, her little baby son, got sick, and he said to her, "Oh, wife, if your God is alive in your heart, and your God is alive in heaven, and he listens to you when you talk, why is your baby sick? I don't believe in your God." "Oh, husband, but my son is going to get better. I know it, because I'm talking to God, and he lives in my heart, and he lives up in heaven, and he listens to me when I talk." Well, her son did get better, but the husband still didn't believe. Well, one time the husband was going away for a whole week on a trip, and he had a special box. It was like a little safe where he kept all of his important things. And he told his wife, his first wife, and only his first wife, he said, "Wife, now I'm going to lock my special box, and I'm going to leave the key on this hook behind this wall hanging, and I want to make sure that you know that that key must be there when I get back. Do you hear me?" And she said, "Oh yes, husband, I'll make sure that that key's there. I won't tell anybody about it. I'll make sure nobody takes it, and that key will be there because I know that's the important stuff in that box." So the husband got everything together that he needed, and he left and went on his trip. Well, he went out just a little ways, and then he got an idea. He said, "Aha! I'm going to prove to my wife that her God doesn't exist, that he doesn't live in her heart, that he doesn't live in heaven, that he doesn't listen when she talks." So he went back to the house, and he snuck back inside when the wife wasn't looking, and he went behind the wall hanging, and he grabbed the key, and he took it with him. And he said, "Ha ha ha, now my wife will know, or she won't know where the key is. And she's going to pray and pray to her God, and guess what? He won't answer her because I have the key." Ha ha ha. And he went on his trip. And he got a little ways, and he crossed a river, and he came to a spot where he said to himself, "But what if I lose the key? Oh boy, I better just hide the key. I'll hide it somewhere else. Instead of behind that wall hanging, I'm going to hide it by this tree." And he went over by this big tree, and he knew right where it was, and right between one of the two roots there, and he dug a little hole, and he put it in there, and he took a big rock, and he put the big rock right on top of it. He said, "Ha ha, when I come back, I'm going to pass right by this big tree. I'm going to lift up that rock. I'm going to get that key, and I'm going to take it home. And I'm going to see my wife's face, and she's going to be so worried and so upset. And I'm going to say to her, 'Ha ha, I tricked you, and your God didn't answer you. He doesn't live in your heart. He doesn't live up in heaven, and he doesn't hear you when you talk.'" And off he went on his trip. Well, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days later, he came back home. And as he was coming home, he passed by that big tree. And as he passed by that big tree, he stopped between those two roots. And guess what? The rock was gone. And he dug down in the dirt, and the key was gone. Oh no! Little did he know that while he was gone, the water had raised because of the rain at one point, and it had washed some of the dirt out, and the key had been washed away. So he went the rest of the way home, And on the way home, you say, oh, what am I going to say to my wife? Oh, no, no. Wait a second. I can still laugh at my wife's God because she still doesn't have the key, even if I don't have it. So he got home and he saw his wife, and there she was with a nice big meal for him, ready for him to come home. And she said, husband, I'm so glad you're home, with a nice smile on his face. And he said, wife, where's my key? I told you I wanted my key to be safe, and I didn't want it to go anywhere, and I didn't want anybody to touch it, and I didn't want anybody to know about it. It better be where it's supposed to be. Because he was about ready to really say bad things about her God, right? Oh, husband, your key, yes, it's right here. And she went over and lifted the wall hanging and pointed at the hook. And the key was there. The key was on the hook. The husband didn't know what to say. How did you get that key? And he had to confess, when I left your wife, I played a trick on you and you didn't know it, and I took that key and I hid it between two roots on a tree. And then when I came back, it was gone. How did you get that key? Well, guess what the wife had to say? I serve an awesome living God, not like an idol. I serve a God that lives in my heart. He lives up in heaven, and he listens to me when I talk. And I was worried about that key. But instead of fretting, I decided I was going to pray. So every day I prayed to my God, the God who lives in my heart, the God who lives in heaven, and the God who hears me when I talk. And I prayed and I prayed, and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I kept trying to surrender it and just leaving it in my God's hands. And then just today, I knew you were coming home. So I went to the market to get a fish, to cook it the way that you like, so you could have a meal when you came home. And I bought the nicest, biggest fish I could find, and I brought it home and I cleaned it. And I was cutting it open and cleaning it out. I noticed that there was something hard inside of its stomach. So I cut open its stomach, and I looked inside, and guess what was in there? Your key! Husband, you may have tried to trick me to show me that there is no God up in heaven. There is no God who lives in my heart, and that my God doesn't hear me when I talk. But guess what? You have just proved that my God is real, that he does live in my heart, that he does live in heaven, and that he hears me when I talk. Amen. And guess what that husband did right there and then? As an honest man, he said to himself, wife, if your God can do that impossible thing, I want to serve your God too. Amen. I want to worship your God too. I want him to live in my heart too. And just like he lives in heaven, I want him to hear me when I talk. And right then and right there, he got down on his knees, and with his wife, he told God that he was sorry for trying to trick, and that he wanted to serve him too. Isn't that an awesome story? And just like that woman, she didn't even have to say anything. All she had to do was pray. And when the time was right, she was able to share about her God in a way where her husband could hear. We can share about God in a way where our friends can hear too. And we want to make sure that we're praying for our friends. So when the time is right, God will hear you when you speak too. Would somebody this morning like to pray? All right, let's see, how does this have 1, 2, 3. How about that? Sound good?
Dear Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you for everybody. Please bless this day to be a wonderful day and help people that's sick and help people to listen to you, Lord. In the name of Jesus we pray, amen. Amen. Thank you, Lord, for this wonderful day. Please help us all to be better Christians in your name. Please help us learn about you in this sermon today. And please help everybody who's sick in the hospital and in the nursing home to learn about you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Amen. You may go back to your seats, take yourself a little bag, and we'll pick up an offering for the student.